Consider a path where you may lead yourself to connectedness and love. We have the honor of sitting with a friend who walks the good red road and teaches life. He is here to offer us words of wisdom. May we offer him curiosity and be open to ourselves.
Hello, Tankashila. Good morning, Creator. I greet you with an open heart and a warm hand. I thank you for this day, Father, Son, and Mother Earth, and Spirit within. I thank you for this opportunity to connect and to pray and to be here at one with you today. Wopila, wopila, wopila. Tunka shila wakamaya yelo hey. Tunka shila wakamaya yelo hey. Tunka shila wakamaya ye wakamaya yelo hey. Creator, help me be holy, help me be sacred. We'll be there.
Travel inside yourself with Hal Robinson.
Hey, good morning. I'm Hal. I'm here to share a little bit about what we do. The thing to share in the beginning, I think, is that for many indigenous people here in what they call Turtle Island, South America, North America, Canada, is a foundational belief that spirit is involved in everything and everybody all the time. There can be nothing in our world that is separate from spirit, God, the great mystery, Wakantaka, however it is for you. That is a foundational belief. So a lot of what we do here is to help people make the connection between what's going on in their physical, emotional, mental world and make that connection to spirit. So we move into this place of being curious of how come spirit's got this in my life right now? Whether it's relationship problems or physical problems or financial problems, rather than move into a poor me, why is this happening to me, bad karma or whatever, the indigenous orientation is spirit has brought this into my life to help me grow and expand and to be more connected to spirit. So that's a lot of what we do here. We don't use a lot of diagnosis or analysis. Even prognosis. This is more of an exploratory journey. How can I look at my life in terms of physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, connected all the time? Those are the 4 dimensions we work with, and we work with finding a way to make it all look sense. One of the older teachers described it as bringing order to the chaos. That my mind can go into chaos. Why is this happening? And when my mind is upset, my body is upset. We do know that when my mind is in the future, it can create anxiety. We do know that when my mind is in the past with self-judgment, it can create guilt and shame. So a lot of this work is to look at how my physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual are connected, and to bring that connection to every moment. So literally, like some very powerful teachers say, to walk in spirit all the time. So that is our intention. And we use what's happening in our world and our interactions with people to help us make that connection in a good way. So we understand, as a friend says, spirit's got our back. I heard that this morning. That was a good line, very reassuring. Spirit's got my back. So that's basically what we do in this facility and when we do training and sharing these things with other people.
Learn a medicine way to explore and accept your entire self. Treat other people as teachers to help you. Stalk your shadow.
Okay, an element of this medicine way is to do a thing we call shadow stalking. Stalking has some negative connotations in our current culture. About 1,000 years ago, people that stalked themselves were considered to be on a very high spiritual endeavor. They were looking for the darkness within, the shadow side and within. We're in the world of two. Male, female, east, west, born, die, right, left, up, down. The world of two. So we know that for all the light, there is a mirror of darkness. We know we can't observe the light unless we're aware of its polarity, the darkness, the yin-yang of things, the male-female nature of things. So it is said in this medicine way that everything has a shadow side, that alcohol can kill us if we indulge in it. But for some people, wine can be the blood of Christ. For them, it's holy and sacred. And if somebody like me with type O blood, alcohol's not such a good idea. It can lead me into a dark place, physically, emotionally. And this medicine way sees that and honors the dark and the light in everything as a gift from Creator. So if I'm shadow stalking, I'm stalking the shadow side of my training, my mind. I'm looking for the part of me that is hard, cold, judgmental, critical, self-righteous, self-important, and full of self-pity. That's called my shadow. That's the opposite of the light, compassion, caring, tenderness, patience, love, like east-west. Because these sides, the love and the patience and the caring and the tenderness, are so sweet and so easy, and they're really good for my immune system. I don't have a problem with that. The difficulty we have problems with is the shadow side, the darkness, how quickly it comes up. We're all probably, if you're watching this, you're probably old enough to understand that sometimes people fall in love and maybe 70 years later, something happens. They start off in unconditional loving. They think whatever their partner do is cute and loving and sweet. And maybe after a certain amount of time, that changes. So we see people can start off with love and compassion and unconditional caring and move into a place where they seem to hate each other and they end up divorcing. That's an example of how we move from the light into the shadow. And my judgments of people only have meaning if I agree with them. So we're also looking for where we agree with the shadow. For an example, if I am watching the political news, which I generally don't do, but if I'm watching the political news and my mind begins to say, what a jerk, what a clown, how does that guy even be there? I have moved into the shadow. And what we know from neurobiology, when I'm looking from those eyes, my carotid arteries begin to contract, like instant karma. My thoughts judge you, my carotid arteries contract. And it doesn't matter whether I'm operating from the shadow to other people, judging and blaming them, or self-judgment. My carotid arteries contract, my serotonin goes down. So in this medicine way, stalking or looking for that part of ourselves in a good way, out of curiosity, not to blame that part, not to judge the part of me that judges, because that's a trap, but to be curious. Creator, help me find that. Help me find how quickly I move into judgment and blame and self-pity. So I'm stalking my shadow. I'm leaving other people alone. I'm not trying to fix them or correct them or help them. I'm using them as spiritual teachers. Those people that I react to help me find my training, my domestication, where I was trained to look at the world with judgment, blame, and criticism. So I'm stalking my shadow, which means I leave other people alone. I don't try to fix them unless they ask for help. Anything else would be for my ego, which would be my shadow side again. So people are my teachers. They help me find the part of me that I want to transform. So much of my day, every day, is stalking my shadow. Where do I react? Where do I move from gratitude and appreciation into judgment, blame, and criticism? That part is my shadow side. As I said, some people, Don Miguel Ruiz calls it a parasite because it drains our energy. We're stalking that. Stalking, this context, means I want the energy of the shadow to reintegrate it, to transform that energy. I'm stalking the darkness to transform it into light. I'm stalking the part of my mind that is very critical and judgmental so I can see it. I can begin to learn about it. I can be curious about it. Here's the last part of that story. If I'm aware that my mind, when it's in the shadow, can keep me awake at night, can raise my blood pressure, can drop my immune system, can put distance in my relationships, I become aware of how much power is invested in the shadow side. And we're stalking that power. We want the power to become ours to use in a different way, to not be used against us. So I'm stalking my shadow as a spiritual endeavor to help me grow. Creator, help me find this. I was given this when I was young and innocent. My computer was blank. It got programmed a certain way. It's not my fault. If I don't like the results of this negative thinking, blaming, criticism, then it's my responsibility to change it. And one of the ways we do that is we stalk ourselves. How quickly do we move in to judgment, blame, and criticism? And here's a fun thing to play around with this if you really want to. If I can imagine a part of my mind that was trained to be judgmental, critical, blaming, I can separate from it literally. I can put that part of me in a chair, that part of my mind. I can imagine my shadow side sitting there. And I become, you follow me everywhere I go. You have something to say about everybody and everything. I'm curious about you. Because I could be talking to this person over here, and you could be talking to me at the same time. And I'm aware that if I have a lot of unfinished business with people, it's hard to make a good connection. If my shadow is still judging me about my marriage that ended in divorce, that could be in the way of a new relationship. So stalking the shadow has to do with energy. My shadow has a lot of power and energy. It can keep me awake at night. It can change my digestion and my immune system. We're interested in that power, not to make it go away, not to medicate it, not to get drunk so we don't hear it, but to reintegrate that energy in a good way for our highest good. So we look at it, we take responsibility for it, and we begin to study, how do I transform this? And that's what this medicine is about, to transform it from why me into curiosity. What can I learn from this?
Listen to stories that teach and reflect on traditional wisdom.
Yes, this is a story, what they call a teaching story. The Lakota, Dakota, Nakota people, cousins, the Eastern Great Lakes, the Great Lakes, and the Western Great Lakes, taught in teaching stories because they didn't have a written language at the time. So this is a teaching story. It covers several dimensions: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So here's the story. A long time ago, maybe 500 or 600 years ago, the people were on the plains, the high prairie, hunting buffalo, making meat for the year. And as they were traveling at the end of a day, the elders, maybe the old medicine man, the old medicine woman, would gather a group of young people. A young male not quite ready to be a warrior, a young female not quite into womanhood yet, and they'd have 4 pairs. And the old man and the old lady would say, I want 2 of you, young man, young woman, to go east. Oh, about 5 bow shots, about 100 yards. And I want 2 to go north, male, female, west, and 2 south. And I want you to look back at our camp, but I want you to use the eyes of a Pawnee, an enemy to the people. I want you to look at our camp with the eyes of an enemy, as if you were going to attack the camp. Take the horses, take the food, maybe take women and children as slaves. What would the camp look like to you from the eyes of a Pawnee, an enemy? Where would you make things harder, or where would you make things easier? Look, and then come back and share with us what you see. And so all the little 8 people would come back and they'd share with the elders, well, I would change this and I would change this to be more safe. And the elders would nod and say, thank you. And I hope you see in this story, the elders are getting the opinion of the male and the female, both sides. They have equal value. Male and female have equal value. And they send them out maybe 20 bow shots. Look back at the camp again and tell me what you see. But look with the eyes of the enemy, and then come back and share. And they would. They'd come back and they'd share with the elders and the other people in the tribe how they might change things or what might be better. So they were in the process of learning, and a significant point here, they were not looking with the eyes of the Lakota. They were looking with the eyes of the maybe Pawnee, an enemy to the people. So the teaching has male, female, east, west. It has looking with a different set of eyes. What can I see if I look at the world with a different set of eyes? If I look at the world with the eyes of the wolf, or the prairie dog, or the hawk. If I look at the world with different eyes, the different than I'm used to looking at the world, what can I see? Can I see more? And underneath all this is, how might I serve the circle? How might I serve the people? Not just for me. In the people, there's a strong belief that every act affects the next 7 generations. You may have heard in another tradition, the transgressions of the parents are visited upon the children for 7 generations. For the Dakota, Lakota, Nakota is a similar belief in that we can make the next 7 generations better by our acts today. So this medicine story is about how to look at the world using what might be an enemy. So in a very significant way, we're beginning to honor the enemy instead of hate the enemy. We're beginning to see the enemy as a teacher that helped me see things that I don't see. So we move into curiosity, we move into gratitude, we move into appreciation, very high values. And what we've learned from neurobiology is that when I'm in gratitude and appreciation, my brainwave changes from beta to alpha. My serotonin has a good level. Curiosity and gratitude and appreciation literally changes my physiology. And perhaps these people knew this 1,000 years ago. A lot of the stories are to engender curiosity, appreciation, gratitude, and the idea that spirit is in everything. Even those people I might see as enemy, I can learn that they can be in my world and share with me things that I don't see. So I move into gratitude, curiosity, and appreciation. More connection with spirit. And my body confirms it because my body is healthier, the more I'm curious and grateful and appreciative. We've learned that from neurobiology to confirm this idea. And we are grateful. Opila.
The good red road is a path where we learn together, but each of us must walk alone.
Some of the phrases that are used in this medicine way to help ground us are, we describe our journey, stalking, a spiritual endeavor, as walking the good red road. The good red road is north. The color is red. It is said the good red road is narrow because each person must walk it solo. It is said the good red road is slightly uphill. It's not crowded. Not a lot of people are on the good red road. And it's solo. East is yellow, sunrise, new beginnings. South is white, the great star nation, regeneration. And west is black, thunder beings that bring us rain, great gratitude, or potential, or chaos. And by walking the good red road, we intend to change the chaos of the west into order. The good red road is a spiritual endeavor, meaning everything all the time is in my journey of walking in a good way, to reconnect with spirit all the time. That's described as walking the good red road. Frequently, on certain reservations, they have what they call red road gatherings, where other different medicine men of the different clans and medicine women would come together and share their knowledge, 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month, with the different clans. So together, we're walking the good red road. We're moving home towards spirit in a good way.
Spirit is everything, everywhere, all the time. Spirit has your back. Be brave.
Ooh. Right now, I'm going to talk a little bit about love, which seems to be the opposite of judgment. For me, there are times in my life where I thought that I was in love, and then maybe 8 or 10 years later, I end up feeling like I didn't love that person, and the marriage ended in divorce. Because that was so painful, I began to study, and I had children. I wanted to teach them something different than what I did. When am I most connected with love? And I understand now that when I'm in a place of vibration, the frequency of love, my body is different. My thoughts are different. My emotions clearly are different. And I feel more connected with spirit. So by the grace of spirit, I have been married, I have children, I even have grandchildren now. And I understand that the love for the lady was one thing, the love for my children is another thing, and a whole nother dimension has been the love for the grandchildren. Each of those are deeper levels of love that I didn't know anything about. I thought I did, but I understand the other part of this is that you can't learn some things by thinking. It has to be experiential. Like, I can't learn to swim by reading a book. I can't learn to love by reading a book. There's a lot of things that are experiential. And love seems to be one of those. I had no idea how deep it could be. I had no idea how much it could change my physiology. So now, like at the end of Sundance, the ceremony, when I'm looking at my relatives, my heart is so full. And when I have grandchildren with me there at Sundance, it's like I feel like I'm going to break into a million pieces, that the love is so full and so complete. And so I'm now stalking those experiences the same way I've been stalking my shadow. I've been stalking those times when I feel the most in love, at peace, connected to all my relatives. The word in Lakota is matakawa. Matakawa oyasi, all of my relatives. That means the rocks and the trees and the people, the two-leggeds, the four-leggeds, the ones who swim, the ones who fly. And my intent is to have the deep peace of love with everybody and everything all the time. And to say that I understand that I'm still working on the good red road. Somebody asked me one time, do you see the journey where it ends? And I said, no, but I can see the road to the end. So we call that the good red road. And a big part of the road, I'm grateful to be reminded, is to honor the power of love, to look for me in my everyday and my interactions, what brings forth that feeling of love. Children, grandchildren, beauty, good connections with people. One of the things that helps me feel a great deal of love is in here when somebody or a group makes that connection between the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. It's a transforming moment that is beautiful. Their eyes are shiny, their inner field change. It's just beautiful. I'm in love with their love at the moment. It's an us thing. It's a prayer for the whole world that we all may move into that level of love and compassion. Aho.
Examine patterns, become aware of them, so that there are possibilities to retrain your mind. In reactions, there are answers.
It is said a long time ago that there were some indigenous people that began to look at the world, learning that when children were young, they were full of energy and happy, and they wanted to share and explore and curiosity. There was not a lot of fear in them. They did not worry about what's going to go wrong tomorrow or what happened bad yesterday. They're in the here and now. So the ancient ones began to see that as we grow older, somehow we move away from that spontaneity and that joy and that gratitude, living in life without fear, no fear of the future, no judgment of the past. And they began to get curious, and they understood that it's something that we do to ourselves with our mental. We do it mentally. We find a way to become fearful. We find a way to worry about the past and to judge ourselves in the past. And this is pretty much learned behavior. So the older ones, the ancient ones, the teachers, began to be curious about how powerful the mind could be. That in the here and now, everything might be okay. And my mind can go in the future and literally put me in hell, where my blood pressure changes, my immune system drops, my serotonin drops. I'm not here and now, I'm suffering. they began to get curious about this. And instead of using pharmaceuticals to make it go away, or drinking maybe a lot of alcohol to make it go away, they began to explore this. If spirit's involved in everything, what can we learn from this? So this medicine way, maybe I've heard 8 to 10,000 years ago, they began to explore the interaction of the mental, the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual. And so now in our present time, we understand that this medicine way is designed to use whatever comes into my life as a connection to spirit. Part of what we understand in some ways is some of our mental training from our progenitors, our culture, creates some distress if we learn to live in the future or we learn to honor the past in a certain way. So this medicine way is designed to use these things. An example would be, if I run into somebody who is very critical, very judgmental, and it's possible to make the connection that judgment creates the emotion of anger. Self-judgment creates guilt and shame. That thoughts create emotions, and emotions create feelings in the body. So that's part of what these ancient ones noticed right away. And they shared with us the idea of looking for this. Literally, what do I react to? What do I close my heart to? When do I become judgmental, critical, self-righteous, and self-important? Not as a way of shaming myself, but as curiosity. How quickly do I react to other people and want them to be different? The premise of this medicine way is that those people that I react to were sent by spirit to help me see how quickly I could move into judgment, blame, criticism. So it's an ironic thing if I run into anybody that's very critical, for example, and that I become critical of them being critical, I've literally turned into something I don't like. I've turned into something, and we call that part of our mind the shadow side, the part that's in the darkness. Don Miguel Ruiz, in the book The Four Agreements, calls that voice a parasite because it drains our energy. Eckhart Tolle, who wrote The New Earth and the Power of Now, calls that voice an entity because we did not have it when we were born. So in this medicine way, we're looking for that part of our training, our domestication, where we were taught to think a certain way. The old ones say we were taught to look at the world as predators. It's either good to eat or it's not good to eat, and anything in between is completely ignored. We don't value the potential of what's between good and bad. So they moved to the place of hoping that things were not seen as good or bad, but they were seen as possibilities. That what I react to is a possibility for learning. That what I react to in a good way might be a mirror of my own beautiful self. I think that the Jesus man mentioned one time to people that whatever you see in me, you can do and you shall do, and more. It's the same approximation that what we see outside of ourselves we react to is somewhere in here. Like if I am reacting to people that are very judgmental and I follow this trail of curiosity, I could find where I'm very self-critical. That would be valuable to learn where I'm self-critical, to be aware of where I learned that, not to blame people. But awareness brings the possibility of change. If I'm aware I'm being critical and judgmental and blaming, and I'm aware of how that feels physically and emotionally, and I'm aware that I was taught to think that way, I have a possibility at that moment with awareness and responsibility to learn to think and see the world in a different way, in gratitude, in appreciation, in spirit. So much of this medicine way is based on two legs, because we're two-leggeds, and the four-leggeds don't need this medicine. They're always in harmony. So one leg is awareness, how do I react? And one leg is responsibility, awareness and responsibility. If you judge me and I turn around and judge you, I'm responsible for my reaction to you. In our culture, many people say things like, you make me feel. In this medicine way, we would translate as, you make me feel, you are the wind and I am a leaf at the mercy of your wind. So you be different so I won't be upset. In this medicine way, that's called the victim role. Oh, poor me, you hurt my feelings, you be different so I won't be upset. This medicine way is the opposite of that, maybe 180 degrees, that when I react to you, I take responsibility for my reactions. That when you judge me, doggone, I'm ready to judge you. And so we begin to look at that, our reactivity, and we take responsibility. How often am I judgmental? How often am I critical? Not just of you, but of myself. So part of this medicine way is to begin to retrain our minds to look at the world as a spiritual connection with everything. So if somebody shows up that's judgmental and critical, I can eventually move to the place of saying, Spirit sent you here today to help me find how reactive I am to external judgment. And that is valuable for me. I want to see that. I want to learn every place that I think and feel and act and believe that I am a leaf at the mercy of the wind. If I don't have money, am I on a bummer? If the weather's bad, am I reactive? If politics are crazy, am I upset all day? Where am I, a leaf at the mercy of the wind, to be aware and responsible?
Self-judgment is a learned behavior. Why have we learned to identify with the judge? This is a spiritual transforming endeavor.
An important question that comes up a lot. That people ask, why do I constantly judge myself? And people have come here that have seen psychiatrists and psychologists and counselors, and they say, nothing much changed, but I did learn that I judge myself. And sometimes I think, oh my goodness, if I say I judge myself, that's two, I and self. Which one is real? Since when I was born, I didn't have this judge in my mind that criticizes everything I say and do all the time. I didn't have that. My little computer was blank. I inherited that. We call that training. Don Miguel Ruiz calls it domestication. So to make a little circle to go back, we start off with this idea of I judge myself. People come in there and they say that. I at least learned that I judge myself. So the next move is to say to the people, I'd like to meet the judge that lives in your mind. I'd like to meet that energy, the one you call I. Since you set it up, I judge myself, I'd like to meet the one that judged you. Let's give that one a chair. And for a lot of people, that's a mind-blowing moment, that this voice in their mind they've been listening to, putting down them all the time, lowering their serotonin, depressing their immune system, is not them, that it's learned behavior. To learn to think that way is learned behavior. And it's not our fault, it is our responsibility. So the question becomes, instead of why do I judge myself, we move into stalking terms, which is, how does this happen? And part of it is, I've been taught to identify with the judge. I've even learned to call the judge I. However, I'm not the judge. I have one. It was put in my mind when I was little and innocent. A lot of our culture is based on judgment. For example, what would a plastic surgeon do if women did not judge themselves? What would happen to the cosmetic industry if people did not judge themselves? The automobile industry, the clothing industry. So we've learned judgment. We begin to integrate it as part of ourselves. In this stalking medicine, like somebody asked the question, why do I judge myself? The short answer, I was taught, not my fault. The deeper level is how. How does this happen? Well, part of it is, in my confusion, I've called this part of my programming, my mind, my training, I've called that I. I've given that thing that judges me my identity. That's not me. So we begin to separate by learning that. I have been taught to judge myself, and now I mistakenly say, I judge myself. It might be more productive to say, I've been taught to judge myself, and it's not my fault. I've been taught to think a certain way. The oldest sister, Germaine Sitting Crow, my tanke, she would say, the untrained mind is like an untrained dog. It wanders around into the past, creating guilt and shame. It wanders into the future, creating anxiety. It doesn't stay at home, guarding the camp, guarding the children, guarding the horses. My mind is not a baby. In another tradition, the Buddhists call it the chattering monkey. It never shuts up. But what is it talking about all the time? Most of the time is judgment. So most of us, a lot of us, are listening to that voice, criticizing, analyzing, diagnosing. It's no wonder we drink so much whiskey or take so many drugs. So this stalking medicine is to begin to stalk the judge. Because people ask that question, why do I judge myself? They're saying in their question, this is painful. To have this voice in my mind picking on me all the time. I just want to isolate, I want to be alone, I want to drink whiskey, I want to go to sleep. So yeah, it's a viable, important question. We see it as a spiritual issue. And the issue is, I've identified with this judge, I've even said that it is me. It is not me. It may put me in hell. So stalking is to stalk this energy, to change the judgment, to love, gratitude, appreciation, kindness, to transform. One of the teachers was an old Navajo gentleman named Irwin, and he used to say, you got to use the manure to grow roses. Manure makes really beautiful roses. In this frame of reference, the judge is the manure, and we're wanting to compost it, to transform it, to power that can be used to love, to honor, support myself and the circle, to change the manure into beautiful roses. We don't do that by denying it, we stalk it. Your Honor, I want to find you every time you tell me how the world is. More importantly, I want to find how often I agree with you. When you judge other people and I agree, I become the judge. A quick example is if I drive out of here today and somebody pulls in front of me and I have to slam on my brakes, is my first mental response a judgment, name calling, criticism? Is my second response saying, you make me feel, so I'm a leaf at the mercy of your wind? So that's a stalking maneuver. How often do I move into that vibration? That's the judge. That's the judge is me, and that judge judges the world. So we're stalking that energy. So that question, why does this happen, leads us into how does this happen? Because I can understand why, but it doesn't do anything until I move into how to change it, how to change the energy. So awareness, I have a judge that judges me and other people. Responsibility, That judge puts me in hell when I listen to it. We've learned from neurobiology that when my mind is in judgment, my serotonin drops, my immune system drops, my cortisol goes up, my homocysteine goes up. Those are stress hormones. So, as the man Jesus suggested, judge not, we see there's a strong parallel in the native tradition. And when we're aware of the judgment, we begin to stalk it, we look for it, it has energy, and we want it back.
Oh, people search for glory a million different ways in their solitary faces, working at it hard each day. Well, if they'd stop and take the time to question why they care, well, they might just start to find there's still room for sharing. It's like we go around in circles when there's no love in our lives. Just an empty game we're playing. All we do is mark the time. And if we get our name in the papers and make a lot of money, have we satisfied our hunger in the search for glory? You know that the only glory, it's to love and be loved. It's the ageless story all of our dreams are made of. And we all need someone to share in this great prize. You know the only glory, it's to love and be loved, to love and be loved, to love and be loved. We're all driven by desire for something in our lives, climbing always higher, always searching for the lights. And what a glorious adventure when the wings of love enfold you and lift you up above to find that the search it's over. You know that the only glory, it's to love and be loved. It's the ageless story all of our dreams are made of. And we all need someone to share in this great prize. You know the only glory, it's to love and be loved. It's to love and be loved, to love and be loved. It's to love and be loved. It's to love and be loved, to love and be loved. It's to love and be loved. It's to love and be loved, to love and be loved. Be loved, be loved. It's to love and be loved, to love and be loved, to love and be loved.